Hey there, toy collector friends and Transformers fans alike. Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Triple TC, that's the time traveling toy collector, and today we are looking at the G1 Constructicons. Yep, the very first full combining team. I know some people would say well, we had Reflector, and Reflector was the first combiner. The Reflector, I think, is a different kind of combiner. This is the first series of individually transforming robots that also then combined into a gestalt mega warrior such as Devastator. And so I'm looking at these en masse just because people have looked at the G1 Constructicons over and over and over again. So I'm looking at them en masse for the purposes of this video, really just so as I get ready for the arrival really of the Studio Series 86 Constructicons, and so that I can then look at the various different approaches to the Constructicons through time. So we've got G1. I'll also be looking at the Combiner Wars version, except I haven't got the Combiner Wars version. What I've got is the Unite Warriors version, which the internet, so you lovely people out there in the world, advised me to get over the Combiner Wars version because the Takara Tomy articulation and decos were allegedly superior. So that's what I got. Also, the Studio Series, I think it's 69 from the Bayverse. I've got that Devastator, which consists of, I think it's 8 figures rather than the normal 6. And of course, we've also got the joy of the Studio Series 86 to come along. So my intention is to look at each of the sets as an entity, really, and what the vehicle modes look like, what the character looks like, and then combine them into Devastator, and ideally do them all within the confines of a single video. I don't think there's any need to go into individual bots at this stage. What I will probably do, though, as and when the Studio Series 86 set builds up, I will probably do bot comparisons across the different Constructicon eras, shall we say. So let's have a quick look. I'm going to zip through the vehicle modes first of all, just because I think we've all seen them many times. I'm super excited to have got hold of these. I appreciate it's a reissue, but these, of course, originally were never available in the UK. We never had the luxury of the Constructicons because I think there was some sort of safety standards issues. You'll notice there's no wheels at all here, so poor old Bone Crusher can't actually roll. So when people are saying, "Oh, you can't roll, you can't transform," this is what G1. This was our G1 lived experience, folks. Nothing. We had to depend on imagination. Then we have Hook. Hook again. Now here, Hook has some nice articulation because we have the this can come up. I always want to believe this can come out, but it can a little bit. I don't think it can come out too far. This has got some articulation there, but what's brilliant is you can also rotate this section, so he can be quite useful on the old building site. So that's something to be pleased about, isn't it? But yep, that's Hook. And again, there's a nice amount of chrome hanging about there, and there is something very not refreshing, but there's something very nostalgic about the whole green and purple look. Because whilst we didn't have these toys in the UK, we did have the cartoon. So we grew up seeing aspects of the cartoon. So here we have Scavenger with a couple of elements of articulation in his bucket area here, and again he can rotate. This section can rotate around, which is nice. And you've got that purple. There's some nice metallicized chrome there, and of course, as I said, the green and purple that we're all so familiar with, that we associate with the Constructicons. Again, no wheels for Hook. He just for Scavenger. He just has to get on with it. I don't think I rolled Scavenger. So yeah, so Hook can roll, but it's not the greatest. It's not the greatest. Long Haul, everyone's favourite dumpster. He can definitely roll. Again, there's not huge amounts going on. Doesn't like to stay tabbed in, I can tell you that. Again, nice chrome, nice purple, nice green. No filled in windows here, just gaps, which I did at one point think it was wrong, but it turns out it's not wrong. It's not a mistake. Yeah, very, very nice. And what I like about these is that they are all kind of a scale, you know. And I know in the real world they probably wouldn't be. They'd actually probably be significantly differently scaled. But for the here and the now, it sort of suits the aesthetic that they scale together. I know as we've moved through time, that's become a very different situation. So here we have Scrapper, who again, he's got an adjustable bucket, which is always nice. The arms are a little bit droopy. I sort of wish they'd tab in, but I can't really see that there's anything for them to tab into. So again, from a design point of view, there's not an awful lot engineering wise to take us by storm here, but they are very nice to look at, you know. And for me they're very nice to look at because they were something that I never had. Then we have the legend that is Mixmaster, and there's some lovely detailing, you know, on this. Some of the decals are a bit hacky. There's visible head syndrome underneath there. Pretty much everything's visible underneath there, to be honest. But I'm worth noting is that you can see very clearly which direction Mixmaster's supposed to be travelling in. And his drum does turn around. Can't really see it. But I do know, I think it was in the Combiner Wars / Unite Warriors version, it seemed like the Mixmaster got a bit turned around. So you thought he was supposed to be going one way, but he was supposed to be actually designed to go another way, which is, you know, curious. But I believe that Combiner Wars version has a bit of ambiguity around that, which we'll look at when we get to it. So this is the Constructicons in their bog standard configuration as construction vehicles, but they also have attack modes. So using the parts that will become aspects of Devastator, they can actually weapon up, and that's what we're going to do next. So don't move. And as if by magic, here we have the Constructicons now all powered up with their various elements that make them far more ferocious-ish. One of them's not great because I really struggled to get the pegs in, which will just start with that. So you can see here with poor Scrapper, this wing section is supposed to tab in. It really didn't want to. So rather than try to force it, given all factors, I've just sort of left it on there. But so that attaches supposedly to the back there. We've got on Mixmaster, we've got a port. This is quite unusual for G1 to have a port for their handguns and also a port for this weapon as well, which is Devastator's gun. So that's nice to see that there. On Long Haul, we've got this assembly here which has these missiles which can fire, so he's armed up there. We've got on Hook not on Hook, so I keep getting the two muddled up. On Scavenger, we've got this sort of drill missile thing which can fire, although not very far, which is probably just as well. We've got this assembly on Hook, again somewhere for his actual gun, which is nice. It doesn't tab in particularly strongly, but it does tab in. And then this little arrangement which has this larger laser gun there, which I think is, you know, really nice to have. And then again over here on Bone Crusher, we have this drill bit section weapon, missile launching thing that sits on the top there. So again, I really like the fact that the various component parts, with a couple of obvious exceptions, do actually store on their G1 vehicle modes. As I say, that's not something that we tended to see done particularly well in G1. And I could be having a false memory, but I actually don't recall the likes of some of the extra parts of Superion, etc., storing on air. I mean, I know the new version is a different kettle of fish, but I just don't remember them storing. I remember having to keep them separate. And that's still the case, because there's still, of course, we've still got Devastator's fists, which we don't have anywhere to put, and some are leftover weapons, etc. But I think, generally speaking, this is a real win for these folks. You know, I think we've got an excellent array of storage, which, as I say, is unusual. So it's another thing about the Constructicons that I think was quite trailblazery for their time. Okay, so let's get them out of their combat vehicle modes and into their robot modes. Okay, so now we have them all in their robot modes. I haven't put all the individual blasters in their hands because it's a bit finicky, and to be honest, I just want to have a bit of an overview of the figures, because they are sort of everything that speaks to G1, and we're only going to sort of look at them very, very quickly, but we can see some very, I'm just trying to get in for the head sculpts there. There's, again, the chrome is nice, but things are not great. You know, some of the joints are not great. Some of the ingenuity around the transformation is great. You know, it's very inventive. But yeah, it's even getting them to stand up. You know, in true G1 style, I think we can safely say, in true G1 style, actually, if they didn't have some of these appendages on the back, they wouldn't be standing up at all. So again, some of the head sculpts are really nice, very sort of uniquely interesting. Lots of nice chrome. The purple and green, of course, we love. But yeah, they as a set, again, they do, I was going to say, suffer from, and it's probably a bit of a mean turn of phrase, but they do suffer from the fact that it's vehicle first, combiner second, individual robot mode coming in easily last. I mean, there's some nice sculpted fists there, so you can hold a blaster, but the fist doesn't exist. It's just sculpted in. The legs have zero articulation. So a couple of the legs are actually held in place by pegs. We'll see that in a second. And they fall over like dominoes. Of course they do. Oh, there we go. There we are. And so let's have a look at this again now. Long haul here, very, very chunky, chunkiest of chests, almost obscuring his head there. Very interesting head sculpt. But I mean, you can see it's, as I say, vehicle first, combining mode second, individual robot mode definitely last. And there's not a lot of consideration for centers of gravity. I mean, this shouldn't really be there, but the minute you try and put it somewhere else, the center of gravity goes completely kaput, and you lose him. But again, the detailing is nice. You can see there's a bolt shot right through there between the legs, so there's no individual articulation. It is as it is. But they are, if you take them for what they are and of the time they are, then to all intents and purposes, you've got to just accept that. And again, here we go. Mixmaster's legs are not separate. There's a suggestion that they're separate. Your imagination can do the work, but they're very much not separate. So here we are. There's his little sort of whatever that is, and it's a lovely mechanism because it does actually fire and it's on a hair trigger, so it does fire very, very quickly and very, very often, which is problematic. Another reason I don't really want to go OTT with the guns. But again, you know, molded in detail, giving you the fists. It's a lovely little face in there. As I say, the suggestion is that there's two legs, but there isn't really, and it's a shame in some respects that I'll just zoom out a bit more so you get them all in shot. That for such an avant-garde, shall we say, range, that they didn't go, you know what, they don't have to be humanoid robots outside of robot mode. because I think that's one of the things that sort of locks it into how it's supposed to be. And it was also something that I didn't like originally about Bayverse robots. They didn't. I thought they don't look like Transformers, but actually they're probably the fact that they could look like anything from an alien point of view. And they didn't need to have 2 legs and 2 arms and a head. They could just actually go along on a unicycle, for example, was something that I sort of bypassed me. And it was only sort of when I was revisiting it from a collection point of view and thinking, well, actually, why do they have to look like that? They don't. That's just human arrogance that suggests that these alien life forms should look like human beings. So it's quite refreshing that they don't, but I think maybe that would have helped if we'd gone into, or the designing of these had taken they don't have to look human-esque in robot mode. It may have been a very different story. Who knows? Anyway, these are the Constructicons in their robot mode, the G1 versions at least. So now let's go to that all-important stage and combine them into the mighty Devastator. And it just remains for me to say, behold Devastator. Now, this is not the easiest combination by any stretch of the imagination at all. And is, you know, there are lots of challenges to getting this figure transformed up. He's obviously, I say obviously, there are lots of very loose areas in his arms, and his fists, of course, tab into where the weapons were previously, so they're easily fired or released. There's very minimal articulation, to the point where I don't even really want to try articulating it. There is some in his arms, as you can see here, but it's very, very loose. There's none in his legs whatsoever. So, you know, that's just how that is. And some aspects of the armorage don't really tab in terribly well at all. The back, I will say, surprisingly, the back is quite clean. So you sort of feel like that's where a lot of sins would be hidden. There's nowhere to necessarily store any of the additional weaponry. But I'm just going to rotate him around like this for now. But yeah, we have a fully combined G1 Devastator. I'm just going to sort of pick him up. I've got to be so careful because, you know, it doesn't hold well. So there's his lovely legs. The purple, green, and so on and so forth remain a constant throughout the design. I'm just going to zoom in on that lovely Devastator head, if I can. It's got some lovely, I want to say they're yellow eyes, but I actually think they're green. I think that they're a shade of green that goes with the rest of his body. It's a bit of a floating head, but you know, it is what it is. And there are some, I'm not going to decry it, there are some really clever, let's try and get a decent, there are some really clever engineering tricks in here. You know, again, the way Hook splits in the middle and folds around to create the upper torso is really clever. So, you know, there's stuff that is great and innovative for its time, but there is just a sense I get that he's just waiting. He's just waiting to topple over, and you know, that would be in and of itself devastating. So, do you have a G1 or a re-release Devastator with the original Constructicons? How do you find it? How's it held up over time? Are you looking forward to the Studio Series 86 version? Do you have a Combiner Wars or a Unite Warriors version? What features for the Studio Series 86 Devastator are you most looking forward to by way of an improvement on how we last saw a sort of G1 Studio Series from the 80s? I know that Combiner Wars has some variants, but we'll look at that next in the next Constructicons video. We'll look at Devastator, Unite Warriors next. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. As always, a like to the video and a subscription to help me get to my next subscriber milestone is always hugely appreciated if it's something you feel you can do. Otherwise, I'm just glad you've been around long for the ride. This has been G1 reissued, admittedly, but G1 Constructicons united into Devastator, and it's been fascinating. I really like looking at the old school, well, everything about the old school versions of this, really. I've found it really fascinating. I've found it equal parts enjoyable, frustrating, nerve-wracking, and ultimately rewarding to finally get him in this position. Anyway, thanks so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you in a future, or indeed in a past video. I've been the Triple TC, that's the Time Travelling Toy Collector, and it just remains for me to say that a thing of beauty really is a toy forever. Take care, bye-bye for now.